Welcome to the Beauty and You podcast, a safe place created for all women to come relax, get inspired, and be constantly reminded that they have not lost the ability to be who they once were. Join us as we dive into the true meaning of rediscovery through inspiring guests and topics such as healing, self-love, and creating a positive mindset. So sit back, relax, and get comfortable as we dive into this week's episode. Here's your host, Chiquita Mack.
Hey, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of the Beauty and You podcast. We are staying right here within the DMV, you guys. I am so excited for our guest today. She is a dynamic humanist and dedicated founder of Clean Beauty for Black Girls, an innovative focus on educating about the importance of clean and safe beauty practices as a critical element of racial justice. She champions a growth mindset and lives authentically, sharing powerful insights, thoughtfulness, grace, and self-compassion. Her work extends beyond exploring the intersections of self-care, wellness, and societal transformation. As an educator and inspirer, she motivates individuals to rise above stereotypes and embrace their authentic selves, fostering a community committed to holistic well-being, empowerment, and personal growth. Hannah McCall, welcome to the Beauty and You podcast.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I am so excited to have you, and I just cannot wait to jump into your rediscovery journey. You have so much to share, and we have similarities within our stories, just a little bit. So why don't you start off by sharing a little bit of your rediscovery journey?
Yeah. I mean, my rediscovery journey, like the start of it is a little cliche only because becoming a mom shifted everything for me, right? I didn't realize a lot of things until that point. Until I was looking at the world through the eyes of a young Black boy and watching the world around us where we were living in the Midwest, look at him as a little Black boy. And that really forced me to look at my own upbringing, my experiences, dismantling what I thought was true and untrue, because I think what happens a lot of times when you grow up the only in your family, whatever that means to you, right? When you grow up the only in your family, there is a lot of natural, well-intentioned gaslighting that happens. And when you're a child, that really messes with your identity of self, your autonomy, and all of those things. And so when I became a mom, I really was just like, I need better for you. I need you to not grow up with these things on your shoulders, because I want you to really discover who you are.
Yes.
What I didn't realize is in picking my child up and planting him in different soil so he could do that, is I was doing that for myself.
Okay.
Like I didn't realize, it's like I was reparenting and reintroducing my inner child to the world. And I've gotten to a place where I thought I was an angry person for the first 23 years of my life. That could not be further from the truth. It could not be further from the truth. I was just in an environment where all I could do was survive and scream.
Yeah.
And so it's been a really fun journey to bring other people along as I'm like, yo, like, do you know how dope you are? Because I just found out how dope I am. Like, don't we love it here? So that's how I got to this space, this chapter.
I think that is so cool. Like when we talk about rediscovery, it can happen at any point in your life. And it's also always constantly happening as well. It's kind of weird.
Thank you.
Like we're always learning ourselves. But that one thing, like motherhood, like when you become a mom, I was so afraid to become a mom because of what I've experienced as a child. And I didn't want my children to be in that environment, because you're right, we were just surviving. Like literally just surviving, trying to get by. And I remember growing up, I think I already told you, my stepfather, but my father, because he raised me forever, but he's Puerto Rican, but he looks white. And so my sister, she's biracial, and then you have me, the chocolate girl. And I just remember like people constantly staring and people looking at me and me feeling out of place and me feeling like I don't necessarily fit in not
Yeah.
being the confident person that I am today, not understanding the importance of loving yourself and loving who you are. And so when I became a mom, I wanted to really ensure that my daughter and my son, but more so my daughter, understood how beautiful she is regardless, right? Like you are beautiful, not you're beautiful for a dark skinned girl, like what I heard growing up, but you're beautiful, period. And so just teaching those things and wanting to break the cycle, because I feel like we're just on that journey of we about to break the cycle, like we're doing that.
Yep. Yeah. Like we're change makers, I think, because we allow evolution of thought. Like we allow our sense of self, like you were saying, to grow. It's like you continue on one path and then you learn something new. You shouldn't stay on that same path now. Like it should widen, right?
Mhm.
And I think that growing up with two white parents, there was a lot of narrow path thinking for them because there was nothing to widen it, to make space for them to like see the world through my eyes or attempt to see the world through my eyes. And I think there's just a lack of willingness to grow from certain generations, especially when it's something we don't know anything about.
Yeah.
It's like, but I'm a good person, so I'm gonna stay right here. And it's like, good people grow.
Mhm. We have to.
Yes. Because we can't know everything in every phase of our life. We really can't. And I think there's such a healing journey in being able to say, you know what, my childhood, while great, caused a lot of harm. Let's open that door and talk about it because there's forgiveness on both sides. I think there's learning like, what was your experience as parents? Let me tell you my experience as your child. I think there's so much to be said for that I do that with my son now. Like once a month, I'm like, hey, what's something you want me to get better at concerning our relationship? And
Yeah.
what's, something that you like, it really bothers you that I do? Like, let's just talk about it. And we flip the script. And I think that's like, I see him operate in the world with such a pure sense of self, even with his emotions, that I'm so committed to this continual learning journey just because of that. Because I'm like, if I could have been you at that age,
Mm. Man.
whew, where would I be right now, right?
Right. Right. It's so crazy. I think about that too, because people always say, like, your daughter acts just like you. And I'm like, she acts like the adult me.
Like it took
Like,
so much work to get here for me.
I I was never doing any of the things that she's doing at her age or wanting to do in her voice and like just being such a leader. That was not me. I was like so quiet. Like you would forget I was in a classroom. I would never talk. I was so afraid. So when people say that, I'm always like, oh wow. But I'm like, but it's definitely not me as a kid. It's definitely,
Yeah.
adult Kita, not 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 any of that. So I just think it's just important to give them that voice. And I think too, like when I think about my parents back then, it was just so different. Like I wasn't able to talk the way we talk to our
Yeah.
kids, and we're very open with our kids. Like, don't ask them no questions. What you talking about? Like, don't worry
Mhm.
about it. Don't
It was
worry about
because
it.
I said so,
Mhm.
parents.
I told you to, and I don't really care how you feel because you a child. So
Hmm.
bye. And
Hmm.
so having those conversations, like I would say stuff to my mom, like, Mom, do you remember growing up when you said this to me? And she's like, I did not. And I'm like, you definitely did. And it's like, I don't know if she, hi mom, sorry, but I don't know if she like tuned it out or she doesn't want to remember, but she was straight up like, I didn't say that. I didn't do that. And I'm like, yeah, you did. Cause it kind of left an impression.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I think those conversations can be so healthy, but I also have grace for the people in the world whose parents are unwilling to even have serious conversations. Those are my parents, if I'm being completely transparent. And
Mhm.
I think that's the sad part is in any relationship, right? It's when you are someone that's committed to this growth, expansive, like allowing life to show you where you're going to expand and grow.
Mhm.
It's really hard when you enter or come across your historical relationships that aren't going to grow with you. Like, I think that is such a humbling space.
Mhm.
But I also think that's where I've learned so much about self-compassion because of things like that. Like
Yeah.
learning to truly like talk to yourself like you do your best friend. And I don't mean that in a cliche sense. Like I do this thing where if I if I have like a feeling of like seeing myself do something that I like once imagined, or like a habit I've been working on and I just do it naturally, I'm like, oh, hey, honey, how are you? Like, I see you right here, like validating that experience, because I think we can get so lost in like the emptiness and the push and pull of the growth that like it's okay to like remind yourself that you're home. Like
Yeah,
you're home, you're good, you're safe, it's okay.
I think that's so important as well. What is one of the most impactful things I will say that you've learned about yourself on this journey?
I think the most important thing I've learned is boundaries for the sake of keeping the peace that I just inherently have. I say that because I'm an empath. Like, if you cry in front of me or even think about crying in front of me, I'm gonna beat you to it just so you feel comfortable enough to cry.
Wow. Okay.
I'm just a really deep feeler. And I started to hide part of that because the world is the world. And like, it's really hard to be a feeler out here. And once I learned, like, no, you just got to pull yourself back. You got to make sure you keep certain people in your spaces, and you got to let the other people just remove themselves. You have to say, I know you guys are going to have this conversation right here. It's going to make me uncomfortable. Continue having it. I just might not actively participate. Like,
Yeah.
actually speaking on who you are and letting that fall has
Mhm.
been the most resounding lesson I've ever learned. And like as you do it, like the muscle develops and you're like, I can really be out here like my whole self.
Yes.
Wow. Like that is, and I think when we grow up in spaces where we're forced to fit in on such a like granular level,
Mhm.
finding that in ourselves is really, really dope.
Yeah.
Really dope.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I think because I mentioned before, like how quiet I was,
Yeah.
it was so important for me to find my voice. And now that I have it, I can't stop talking.
Right. That's what happens.
So it's like the things that I would normally would just be like, oh, it's okay. And it's not. You like you feel like, oh, so hurt. And then you're like, it's okay. That used to be me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's okay. Oh no, it wasn't that bad. Oh no, I'm fine. And then inside, I'm like screaming, like, oh my God, how could you do that? But now the new me is like, oh, listen, we're not gonna do that. Talk
That's
about that, or I'm not going to take that, or you're not gonna disrespect it.
yes.
So like really finding my voice was just so important in my rediscovery journey. And that is just something that I don't want it to go away. I like that.
Right? Once you have it, it's like, oh no, this is it now.
hmm And I find myself always saying, like, I say this a lot, like in the office too. I'm like, y'all better find your voice. Y'all better talk up. Y'all better speak up. When I know it's not the easiest thing to do, but for a lot of people, I am their voice. And so if something doesn't go well, they're like looking at me and I'm like, all right. But then I'm
Mhm.
like telling them, hey, I'm not going to always be here. I would really like for you to find a way to express yourself. And I know it's not easy because it was hard for me. It took me like 30 something years to get there,
Right?
but here I am. So I think it's really important. And all you guys are older than me is to just really find your voice. So that way, you can use it for the good. And they're like, okay, we hear you, but can you just do it? Because you're here.
Like, but you're so good at it. It's like, how do you
Oh,
think I got here? By using my voice.
I had to practice. Okay. And I had to feel uncomfortable. That part of being
Yes.
uncomfortable, like it's for real. Growth comes with being
Mhm.
uncomfortable, but we have to just embrace
Yeah.
that part, that fear part that makes you scared and got to push through it to get to your goal and where you're ultimately trying to be.
I exactly that right there. I like reframing what discomfort actually means.
Mhm.
And I was listening to something the other day that was talking about fear. And it's like, hold on, fear is not an emotion. You have an emotional reaction to fear. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh, yes, let's separate those two things. Because fear is often like, you got to come this way. Like it's right over here. And it's like, I think I'm comfortable over here. But it's like, if you really sat and reflected on the cost to your happiness of staying comfortable when true comfort is literally just going through the hard stuff. It's taking that guidance of like peeling back the layers and learning yourself. It's like, no, you don't even know what discomfort, like you're in discomfort. You're judging comfort because it's sticky. It is sticky.
Yep. And just thinking about times where like, even if you think about, well, I can only speak for myself, but like my childhood, like that was uncomfortable comfort. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Like the
Oh, I
weirdest
love that you put words to that. I really
like,
love that.
yeah, it's like, wow, I was just so uncomfortable, but comfortable at the same time. And then it's when I got out of that and got into the world of realizing like, that was some shit. That was shitty. That
Yes.
really wasn't okay, but you find comfort in being
Yeah.
uncomfortable but it's just really weird. It's
That
really
is,
weird.
yeah, that is, I think that's all of that is how I learned to gaslight myself. I think that explains why I would get in relationships with people that I had to like prove my worth to, which is an
Mhm.
impossible thing. Don't ever do that. But like, I
Yeah.
think I would do that because, growing up in these spaces where I thought comfort was this like bubble of discomfort, but that discomfort is just called racism.
There you go.
It's just when you're in a sea of white people, nobody's calling it that because they're like, what's
Mhm.
wrong? All I said was this to you. I didn't mean like you. And it's like, oh, okay.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Or like, having conversations with family. It's like, oh, you can't say that because of this. Well, I'm not racist. And it's like, as the resident expert, I'm gonna go ahead and make that call. Like,
I'm gonna tell you.
right? Like, that's not how this is supposed to go. So like I get that because like I moving away from my family, I separated that like discomfort and comfort and was like, I don't even know if I have anxiety for real or if I was just in an environment where I couldn't be safe. And so then I
That's
also had to take
interesting.
that to like my immediate family and be like, when you come home from holidays, it takes a week and a half for you to reset internally.
Mhm.
Why? And should you keep doing that? And it's like,
Right.
no, you shouldn't. So being strong enough to, again, face that discomfort, face the recalibrating of what things look like. Because I mean, we have one life. I'm constantly like telling myself that, especially with the son who's getting close to the end of his high school career.
I
Like,
know the feeling.
right. It's like, geez, life is just so fast. We try to put so much in it. And it's like, you really need to center yourself in a way that you can remain present. Otherwise, you miss the good stuff
Mhm.
or you miss being able to absorb the good stuff. Like, I
Right.
think getting to this level of peace in my life, I get to see the love I give reflected back because I can absorb it. Like, I'm not blocked anymore. It's just like, oh, this is nice.
Yes.
But yeah.
I think it's important that you even mentioned that part because we do get to a part in our journeys where we're wanting the loving, we're wanting the belonging part, but we also have to be in the space to receive those things. And that's more work. Like, let me tell you something, this rediscovery stuff is tiring too.
It never stops.
It never stops. You're like, oh my God, I thought I learned this already. Oh, I really didn't deal with that part.
Yes,
Ugh.
that part.
Okay, let me deal with this part. But you do have to put yourself in the place to receive
Mhm.
the love that you're wanting to give. And I touch on this real quick. Just in the framework of just talking about your kids, right?
Mhm.
So I didn't grow up in a very like affectionate environment,
Mhm.
like hugs and give me a hug, give me like that was not my upbringing, which I never really thought much about until like my kids are so they like hugs and kiss and hug and I'm like
It takes so much to get used to,
what?
right?
Okay, but allowing them to do that and
Yes.
being able to receive that and then learning how to give that back. Like I had to learn all of that and that's when I realized like, oh my God, I didn't even grow up in an
Mhm.
environment that was like this.
Yeah.
Like that self-realization that was real for me for
Yeah.
sure.
I think what you said is so powerful. One, because I'm an advocate for kids, period. I think they're the greatest.
Yeah.
Kids and dogs are my favorite.
Yeah.
But like kids can teach us so much about the vulnerability piece of compassion.
Mhm.
I'm obsessed with it. My son had to do the same thing with me. And like, I think that's also why us as parents, like, we're the curse breakers. We're the rerouters because we are also vulnerable enough, even though we didn't really realize maybe in the moment that's what we were doing, but like we let them lead a little bit. Like we let them say, hey, I need this. Okay. Like just give it to me because you're my mom. And it's like, okay, yeah, that is good enough. That is a reason for me to just give this to you. Like you cannot spoil the child with love. And I'm glad that we're learning that.
Yeah.
Because
So
I
many
just, these
lessons.
babies need all the love in the world to go out into this, because we did it, but we did it the hard way, right? Like, and that's why we're exhausted.
Yeah. We like, oh, Lord.
Right? We'll be exhausted. It's like, all right, yeah, I gotta go dismantle this other trauma. Hold on. Like,
Yep. Let me go deal with this one.
yep. So no, I love that you said that. I love that you did that. I love that you're raising it because I think there's so much power in that.
Yes, thank you so much. So I do want to wrap it around and I do want to talk about your nonprofit that you have. So tell me about your nonprofit and explain to me the connection because I see a connection with your nonprofit and also your rediscovery journey.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about your nonprofit and then the connection back around to your rediscovery.
Mhm. So my nonprofit was created just because I learned something new and it made me mad. Um, I learned that 75% of personal care products marketed to Black women contained harmful chemical ingredients.
Mm,
And I learned that from white women who were also selling a product on the other side of it. So to me, I was like, one, this you can't tell my community what's best for us. Like, let's stop
mhm.
that, please. And stop doing it in the sake for the sake of capitalism and another
Yep.
dollar in your pocket. Like, so I just started like I started a blog, and then a lot of Black women-owned brands who are making products with our health in mind reached out to me. And we're very much like, this is what we need because as product makers, it's really hard for us to do the education too. Like, can't do
Mhm.
everything.
Right.
So I created the nonprofit. It has been amazing. I am constantly reminded of the grace of humanity because there's a lot of white women in this space that are really dope and put Black women on, but the
Mm.
Black women in this space are just like so motivating, so driven, and it's great, but it's like sad too because a lot of these stories, like a lot of brands that start making great products are because women have been faced with diagnoses that are traced back to products that they use. And it's like that's so unfair that I just couldn't be silent. Again, using your voice.
Yay.
Um, and so, yeah, so I just do the education piece and I tell people all the time, like, my goal is to no longer have to have this nonprofit. So we're going to keep talking until it's no longer necessary.
That's amazing. First of
Yeah.
all, I never really realized the harmful products, like ingredients in our products. They make it look all pretty and then they put one of us in the commercial and then,
Yep.
you just go to Target, go to Target
Exactly.
and I'm like, oh, okay. And I just grab it. I never thought to like flip it over.
Exactly. Who thinks that? I'm like, no, isn't that why we have like laws and regulations?
Yeah.
One thinks.
Yeah. I never thought about that. So the fact that, yes, using your voice for something like we love our hair. I
Exactly.
don't know about you, but we love our hair. And we're going to buy that product that does the
Mhm.
thing that we want it to
Mhm.
do no matter what. And so, yeah, the fact that you're able to be like, hold up, you're hurting us, you're hurting our people. And it just sucks because we're always getting that side of it.
I
Like,
know.
we're going to sell, we're going to take the black dollar, we're just going to
Yep.
sell to them and gain from them. They're not going to really pay attention.
Yep. It's like
They're
we're
not.
just gonna force them to do this because
Mhm.
they'll just do it. Because
They'll do it.
I'm bolder than a lot of other people in this space only because of what I'm about to say. And I say it all the time, but like, please don't believe that any of this is lacking intention. Like
Mm.
they know because they also have different formulas to sell in different countries who have stricter legislation. So like this is not a oops, this is a on purpose thing because it's largely in products that also support and force a white beauty standard. This is not an accident.
Yeah.
And if, like you said, like hair products are actually the worst because they know we're going to have shelves and cupboards full of that. Like
Yes.
on their part, it's good market research.
Yeah, on their part. And our part, we'll buy it and then we'll be wondering, well, why do we have this? And why is our bodies reacting this way? And what's happening? And we don't think, at least for me, my first thought wouldn't be it's the hair product that I just
No.
bought, right? Because it's doing the thing I wanted to do for the hair.
Yep.
So I'm gonna keep buying it, So just having that awareness, like, no, we really need to pay attention to what's on the back of our bottle and what we're putting into our bodies. Like it's a really important for our community.
That part, because
Sure.
I think a lot of the narrative forces us to believe that a lot of these hormone related health issues that we see Black women have, breast cancer, fibroids, pregnancy issues, fertility issues, we're told all of those things are because of how we live, right?
Yeah.
Our culture, how we eat. That's
Yep.
not true. Like, that's not true. Breast cancer, for example, I think only 6%, 6 to 8% is genetic,
Yeah.
which means the rest is environmental.
Wow.
So that's not what we're eating, even though that's a whole nother issue we can talk about. And that's not, again, that's set up like food deserts and all that, but it's just, we have to start asking, and this goes for self-discovery too. That's kind of how it goes hand in hand, I suppose. Like we have to ask more questions. Like we have to ask, just because we've had something in our heads forever, we've been told something, given something, it's like, okay, but why? And does it work? And is it best for me? Like, like we just have to, we have to be more inquisitive about everything, including ourselves, including our health.
I agree. And it does go to the food too, like everything that we put into our bodies, I think, because there's a lot of things happening to our bodies with food too, that you're right. It's not by mistake. It's like we're going to market to this culture at this price because we know they're going to buy it and it's doing damaging things to us, to our people, and definitely to our children for sure. Like some of the things like are happening. I'm like, why? What's going on? Why is this? My mom's like, it's what they doing to the food now. You got to check the food. I'm like, you're right. It's definitely
Yeah.
what they're doing to the food because this stuff is not normal.
It's not like food, between food and like, again, food and personal care products. And we look at little girls and it's like, why are they going through puberty earlier? And it's like, well, I can tell you, like, because that's not normal. Like that's evolution and the way that I don't think we were really supposed to go.
No, and that's scary. That puberty early stuff is like terrifying because
It really is.
I'm not ever ready. Ever ready. And I'm just like, what is happening? Because when I was growing up, everything happened when we were like 14, 15, and now it's like 9, 10. And
Do with that at 9. Like I can't wrap my head around that. Like that's such an emotional burden. Cause like even at 14, 15, 16, I think it was 15, but like even then it's like you're told you're a woman and you have no idea what that means.
yes.
So you're just like, all right, I'm different now.
Yeah.
How am I different? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know what's happening. And then to deal with that at such a young age, it's like they don't know
I know.
at all. And so it's just, okay, well, let's just teach the hygiene part of it first and kind of understanding that you kind of got to do this. And then, but this is the bigger picture and they still don't get it. They don't.
Because how can you, right? Like,
no.
I feel like that takes well into adulthood to
Yes.
fully
They just still don't know.
Right. And that could be lack of education, I guess, too, but
Yeah. 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 So
yeah.
it's just our world is changing. I'm just thankful for your nonprofit and just finding a need. I feel like you literally found a space and you're like, I'm definitely going to use my voice and I'm going to fill that gap and I'm going to bridge it for sure so that our people can be healthier and can understand what's out there and better ways to benefit our community. So definitely kudos to you for finding
Yeah.
that bridge
Thank you.
and doing that. I just feel like, I know you said you want to continue talking until we don't need it anymore, but no, I think you just got to keep going. You got
I was like,
to,
there'll be something else that comes of it. I'm sure.
you
Because
got to
like,
keep keep
I
it
get
and then add
so
something else
much.
into it.
Yeah, right. And I kind of, that's the name Clean Beauty for Black girls kind of came because it's a little ambiguous. You don't really know what it means. People think I have products all the time. I get market pitches,
Oh, I got you.
everything. I'm like, can
Yeah.
you one look at the .org or just put a quick Google in? Like, I'm not selling anything.
No, she's not, guys. Come on.
But yeah, it's for
Read.
the sake of like the bigger conversation. Cause a lot of what, like if I meet with groups or whatever, a lot of what we do is open up what beauty means to you. And I mean, we know this, Black women, young Black girls, we come in so many different versions of beauty. And to put girls in a room and space and say, what do you think is beautiful to you as a Black girl? Or if I say beautiful Black girl, what comes to your mind? And then like digging in and being like, okay, so you're telling me straight hair is your version of beauty. Why? And just letting them, you know, kind of sit with those questions is really dope. I've had young high school age boys come to some of the high school groups because they're curious about like their products. And then they get to sit on those conversations and hear the young girls talking about beauty and listening to like a different conversation than they might be privy to is also really great. So it's really just become this hub of like, let's just talk about what's going on. Like, let's just talk about the pressures, the beauty pressures of being a Black woman in this space in America, period. So it's really powerful to just watch people kind of get through that discomfort and then just actually start talking.
Mhm.
That when I coached high school track, I got that a lot. And I was like, oh, this is like a tap in for me. Like, I love giving the babies a space to just like
Yeah.
stand a little taller.
I think it's important to have those conversations with them and to hear the definition of beauty from their eyes because society sucks. And it puts so many pressures on ourselves
Mhm.
to look a certain way, to fit into the mold, but whose mold is it? You know, like those are the questions like, well, why do you want that? Or why do you want to look like that? Or why do you want straight hair? Why can't you wear your curly hair? Why can't, you know, who said that that's not beautiful? And so again, changing the narrative, having those conversations, like those conversations are what's going to change the world. And those conversations that you're having with those young people, those are our future leaders.
Yeah.
And that's what we need. We need to ask them those inquisitive questions to make them think about, huh, why is that? Wait, I don't
Mhm.
have to have my hair straight?
Yes.
Oh, I can wear it in the fro. I can wear twists. I can do my locks. Yeah, you
Mhm.
can. And you can
And you
still
could
be,
switch it up
yeah,
as
you
many
can
times as you want to. Like,
whatever
don't
you
let
want, girl.
anybody tell you you're doing too much.
Yes, you do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Know, and you're beautiful that way. And so having, like I said, having those conversations and allowing them to think and have a voice is what's going to allow this cycle to keep changing and to ultimately change, hopefully, the world.
I
Change
know.
this narrative, change our Black girl narrative,
Yeah.
you know, our
Yeah.
Black boy narrative.
And it takes all of us talking, right? Because there's no, that whole element of there not being enough room for everybody, or, oh, there's already too many people having these conversations. No,
It's not
until you
enough.
show up and bring your lens, we don't know something. Like you have something to tell us because not, we all have similarities, but
Mhm.
sometimes we don't even like know there are parts of us that we match with until we start talking. And I feel like that's when we live on this like superficial level. Like I love social media for so many reasons, for so many reasons. I have formed so many connections through it, but we're also very much faced with a copy and paste competition world, if for lack of a better phrase. And
Mhm.
so, you know, you really have to ask yourself those questions so you can stay out here in the light and not be persuaded by everybody else, you know, because if we don't all bring our perspectives, then we're just going to be, you know, just like, well, we're going to be where we are right now. I'm not
Yeah.
even going to lie. Like,
Yeah.
we can't agree on anything. We nitpick with each other. We take each other down any chance we get. And it's like, I'm not interested in that.
I don't have the
And
energy, child. Have the
that's the
energy.
thing. I don't have energy and like all I see is y'all's pain. Like, come on over here. Come have a
Yeah.
conversation. Come sit down.
We changing all this. We changing.
Right. Like we're not gonna do that anymore. But yeah, I think it's so important that we just keep talking and sharing and letting other people talk and share too.
Yeah. Let them talk, let them share, give them their space, and keep being our authentic selves. I think it's going to continue to make a huge difference in just showing just the importance, like, be who you are. No, we didn't start here. We all have a journey, but look at where we are, and we're changing the world one voice at a time. I'm
Mhm,
like
mhm.
determined, like, you're going to hear our
Yeah.
stories and you're going to be motivated and you're going to go out there and you're going to change the world too. Come
Yeah.
on, come on, come on, come on, come
It's
on.
true. Like, even like specifically thinking about, the overbearing stereotypes of Black women
Mhm.
and we're strong and how we're really
Mm,
trying to take that off the table. But again, growing up under only white influence, never personally knowing an older Black woman until I got to college, I had no concept of how a Black woman operated,
mm,
like showed up, felt nothing. I had no context. So I was just like, oh, I am an angry person. And so again, when I found out, like, I am incredibly soft, and
mm.
that is my strength, because I'm like, no, I'm going to show up soft
Yeah.
and y'all will just deal with me soft. Like, I get everything done that I need to get done. Like, I'm a single mom, but still, it's just, I think it's just an interesting journey to come out on the other side of and be like, oh, you were just operating in a way that you were told you are. Because again, media, society is going to keep pounding that in our heads as Black women. And it's like, you take so much creativity and love from yourself when you allow that narrative to be what brings you forward.
Absolutely. I think it's important, and I talk about strength quite a bit, like changing the term of strength. Like, you're not necessarily strong because we're going to just carry everything and we're going to take it all as a Black woman and we're not going to speak our mind or anything like that. We're just going to carry it. But being able to speak and to be vulnerable in spaces that we normally not vulnerable, like showing that strength in that way. And with my daughter, I always try to tell her, you're so strong for telling me, thank you for telling me how you feel. There's strength in that. Thank you for crying. There's strength in that. Thank you because it's important for her to know, like, just because I cry or I show emotion or I'm doing this doesn't take away my ability, to be strong. I'm not this
Yeah.
strong Black woman that everyone has painted us to be.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
really focused on changing the narrative and definition of the word strong as a Black woman. Like, you're so strong, Keita. I'm like, listen, y'all, I don't even know. Thank you. I appreciate it. But I'm strong because, like, I hear you, but from my perspective, it's because of this, this, and this. But,
Yeah.
thank you for that. But, there's more to it than just being the Black woman that's going to carry on her shoulders, because I ain't doing that no more. I done took it off. Y'all gonna have to take some of this
Yeah.
weight. I'm tired.
Because
So,
that's the painful part, right? It's like, you say
mhm.
we're strong, and it's like, no, we're hurt.
Right.
Like,
Right.
that's what
Right.
it really is.
I am hurt, and I've been hurt for a while. And,
Mhm.
deciding to do that work and that self-discovery, that's the strength part.
Thank
Digging,
you.
tucking the layers off of yourself, really digging into your childhood, trying to figure out where all this stuff come
Yep.
from, why I feel like this, why that's strength. Because that
Yep.
hurts.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
the part. So I think it's important I want to encourage everybody to do the work,
Hmm.
find out who you are and be who you are. Like, show up as yourself, love yourself in and out, the good, the bad, the ugly, and just have an open mind and keep being willing to learn. I just feel like it's just so important no matter where you are in your rediscovery journey.
I completely agree. Completely agree. I think I get asked often how I got in this, like, advocacy space, the DEI space. And it's, because of my growing up days, I just have such an intense natural pull to treat people like they matter. But I
Mhm.
also tell people, like, it's really difficult to treat people like they matter if you can't treat yourself like you matter.
That
And you
part.
can't treat yourself like you matter if you haven't gone in there and looked at, like, the entirety of you, the good, the bad, the ugly, the I don't know why that's there. What is that? And be like, all right, we all cool. Like, I love but until you can love yourself and see yourself, you can't see somebody else. So I think
Hmm.
we all would do a service to ourselves and the people around us and our communities just by, like you said, going in, doing the work, seeing what's there, what needs healing. what needs cleaning out.
I agree. What advice would you give to someone who is struggling with just that, with they want to be their authentic selves, but they just
Mhm.
don't know what to do? What advice would you give them?
Hmm. Honestly, I think one of the most impactful things you can do if you're not sure where to go or where to start is to do the scary thing of spending time with yourself. Like sit somewhere. It can be in your house, it can be outside, but sit somewhere. Don't put in headphones. Just sit, look around, talk, let the world get quiet because you have so many answers inside of you if you just stop and listen. And like if you believe in a higher power, I promise you that like can you just chill out for a second? Because I have a lot to give you, but like you won't stop moving. And I think that's such a natural thing, right? Like we think authenticity comes from performance
Mm-hmm.
and I especially social performance, and I don't think that could be further from the truth. I think you have to be really solid and then enter a space and be okay with trial and error. Grace is the plug. It's like, oh, I messed up there. All right, next time.
That silence part, that kind of scared me a little bit.
It's scary all the
I was
time,
like,
but
"Ooh, Lord," but it's so necessary. It's so
mhm,
necessary. I used to be so afraid to be by myself, and now I enjoy being by myself. So you're absolutely right. There's so many answers that we do already have, and it's so important to sit in that silence.
mhm. Because
Thank
there's so
you.
many different
Thank
ways
you.
to be by ourselves too, right? So like
Mhm.
expanding what that looks like too, it's worth the discomfort in the beginning when you're at a space where you're doing the most mundane thing and you're like, I really like hanging out with me right now.
Mhm.
Like that's worth all the discomfort in the world. And I believe in gratitude journaling so much. Like we can reprogram our brains for real, for real.
Yes, we can. I love my positive affirmations, child. I love my positive affirmations because that's what I think saved me because I had to trick myself at first. I had to say it over
Hmm.
and over again until I started to believe it. But there's so much power in it and the power of manifesting. I just really believe that our minds are the key to so much. And if we can just, like, we watch what we put in our bodies, just watch what we put into our minds, what we feed our minds, we can definitely make a difference for sure.
Yeah. My son's biological father played football in college. And as he was, going through the combine and NFL scouts and things like that, he had his first mental break and was later
Mhm.
diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Watching someone that was my entire heart go through something like that, I really learned or I gained so much respect for
Mhm.
the brain. And
Mhm.
that really put me into a space of mental health and wellness and starting my like learning about it there. Because then
Mhm.
also being like, I have a child who does share some genetics with this human. So like I need to make sure that he has a much stronger mindset going into the bigger stressors of life so he knows what to do and how to handle them. So
Mhm.
that means I have to learn how to handle them too. And yes, like it's the affirmations, it's the telling yourself how you're gonna feel and think before you do it naturally. That looks like for me a lot of times, I'll have a negative thought and I will literally say to myself, no, 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 we don't do that anymore. Pick
Yeah.
a new one. And it sounds crazy, but you got to keep doing that until
Mhm.
until you're like, okay, I got it now. I got it now. And I don't think that ever stops. I think that's a continual intimate relationship with yourself where it's like, no, we're not going to say that about ourselves. We're going to say you can do it and you are going to figure it out because you do deserve it. Stop.
Mhm. Absolutely. That reprogramming, so important. That mental health awareness, again, so important. And I think mental health in the Black community is something else to shed a light on and to embrace because that's not talked about very much. It's getting there now,
It's getting
but
better.
it definitely wasn't then. Uh,
Exactly.
and so I just think learning all of that, the importance of the mind, the importance of sitting on somebody's couch. Like I was the one, I was like, I am not about to sit. I will be the one sitting on this side of the couch taking a note. And I am about to sit on that side because I don't do that. And realizing like, oh
Why
no, I
not?
have to do that.
Yeah.
Like I have to be the person on to be on both sides of the couch. It's okay.
Right. Yes.
It's
Cause like you're
okay.
still human.
You're
Hello.
right. I can feel this stuff. So that was a lesson I had to learn, but I'm a very big mental health advocate. I think it's really, really important to just continue to educate and just to learn as much about ourselves and change the narrative of our lives in all aspects for sure.
100%, 100%.
So can you tell the audience where they can find you?
Yes, I am on Instagram. You can find me personally at Sippin' Hannah, and you can find the nonprofit at Clean Beauty for Black Girls.
Yay! I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for being a part of the Beauty in You podcast and just being willing to share your story with us.
Thank you. This was great. This was great. I love what you're doing. So thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. And all of Hannah's information will be in the show notes. So you can just access her very quickly and be a part of her beautiful community because you don't want to miss it. So jump on that. All right, guys. Until next time.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the Beauty in You podcast. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Visit us at thechiquitamac.com or join us on Instagram at thechiquitamac for your daily motivation and inspiration. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Until next time.